Hello everyone, this is Parth from FTC Team 7477, and today we're going to be talking about how to program a tank drivetrain in FTC robotics. So for the past videos we've dove into the basics of motors, servos, gamepad input, encoders, and just the separate components of FTC programming, and now we're going to put that all together to program an actual module of a robot. So a tank drivetrain in this video is going to be composed of 4 motors powering 4 normal wheels on the front and the back of the robot. So there's 4 powered wheels. That means we need 4 powered motors for this tank drive. So I'm just gonna paste in initialization code for the motors to initialize it with the hardware map, and I'm calling it front right, front left, back left, and back right. So just normal motor initialization for all 4 motors. Now remember, when you're creating a tank drive, 2 motors are always flipped. 2 motors are going to be on the opposite side. So that means I want to reverse 2 of my motors. So I'm going to reverse my right side. So if I do, I'm just going to reverse my 2 right motors by setting the direction to reverse. And what this will do is when the motors spin all at the same power, let's say I set them all to the power of +1, they'll all spin in the same direction. And that's what I need for the tank drivetrain. So now I want to start with the 2 components of a tank drivetrain, which is the driving functionality and the turning functionality. So a tank drivetrain can either drive or turn. So we're going to be looking into that. For the tank drivetrain to be able to drive, it needs to be able to set the same power to each motor. So let's program the drive part. And the drive part, we're going to be using the joystick to control with the gamepad. So remember, the drive is forward and back, and we're going to be using the gamepad. We're going to be using the left stick y-axis of the gamepad to control the driving, meaning when I push the left stick forward, it will go forward, and when I push the left stick back, it will go back. So let's do that component first. First, we're going to initialize a double and name it drive. And then we're going to, in the while op mode is active section, we're going to set drive equal to the gamepad1.left stick y value that we want to control the robot with. Remember to multiply this value by -1 to ensure that moving the joystick forward will actually return a positive value. Now, we want to create on tank drivetrain, when you turn, one side has 1 power and the other side has the opposite power. That means for a tank drivetrain to turn in place, for example, the right motors need to be turning forward and the left motors need to be turning backwards, or vice versa. So the turn component was going to take care of that. For our turn component, we're going to use this is turning, of course, right and left. And we're going to use the right stick. We're going to use the x-axis. So moving the right stick right will turn it right. Moving the right stick left will turn it left. And again, we need to initialize a double variable for the turn component. And this time just set it equal to gamepad1.right stick x. And we don't need a multiplier for -1 for this. So now we are gonna, in a tank drivetrain, you need to set an individual power to 2 sides. The right side will have a distinct power and the left side will have a distinct power. For the sake of a tank drivetrain, you don't need to set a distinct power to each motor. That's only mechanical. So we're gonna set a double for right side power and left side power. And what we're going to do is the right side power needs to equal drive, and the left side power also needs to equal drive for the first step. What this means is I'm eventually going to set this power to both of the motors on the left side. Actually, let's do that right now. So if I set my motors front left motor, I'm going to set it to the power of left side power. I'm going to do this to the back left motor also, and vice versa for the right. Set it to the right side power. So now let's look at what this will do. Drive is my value given by the gamepad1.letStickY. So moving it forward will cause the robot to drive forward. And remember, driving needs all the motors on the robot to have an equal power. So my drive value will be equal for the right side and the left side. So here we're actually setting every single motor to the same power. So if drive is positive, it will be forward movement. If it's negative, it will be backwards movement. So now we have the drive part of the drivetrain down. We can move forward and back. Now we need to incorporate turning. Now, to do that, we want to add the turn power to one side while subtracting it from the other. Remember, this will cause the robot to have one side turning one way and the other side turning the opposite. Let's walk through this. Let's say I have not touched my left joystick and I move my right joystick all the way right. This will result in a drive power of 0 and a turn power of 1. The turn for the right side power will equal 1. The turn for the left side power will equal -1. I set all my left motors to a power of -1 and I set all my right motors to a power of 1. This will cause a turn in place. Now let's say I push my left stick all the way forward but I don't touch my right stick. It will result in a drive of 1 and a turn of 0. In this case, both the right side and left side power will have a power of 1 and the robot will move forward at full speed. One other thing that needs to be incorporated is the range.clip function. What the range.clip function is it takes in a variable as a parameter and two bounds, a lower bound and an upper bound. If the variable is lower than the lower bound, it will make the new value of the variable the lower bound. If the variable is higher than the value of the upper bound, it will make the new value of the variable the upper bound. So we want to use a range.clip for the drive plus turn, because as you know, the value for a motor cannot be less than -1 or higher than 1. So we want to keep it between those values. So my range to clip it between will be -1 and 1. With the left side, it will be -1 and 1 also. So this will ensure that the powers will not go below -1 or above 1, and if they do, they'll just cut off at -1. So this code will result in a fully functional tank drivetrain, and I hope you guys learned how to program a tank drivetrain from this video, and thank you for watching.